Welcome to another episode of the Early Years Learning Hub podcast series titled Professional Learning Tapas, where I share what I hope are some golden gems of learning that inspire you to make some changes to your practice and that work for you, and most importantly help the children that you work with to thrive. Today's topic is definitely one of those hottest topics around. In fact, I think it really covers two topics that teachers and educators often grapple with: how to plan for learning based on what children are interested in, and project-based learning. So hopefully I'll share some insights, and hopefully you'll get some ideas to move forward with those pedagogical practices. So here are some of the things that I think are really important to wrap your head around first. So children's interests provide the vehicle or the topic for the learning, and the intentional teaching will be for the learning, and the intentional teaching will be linked back to the learning and curriculum frameworks. So I'm not teaching, for example, children the goals of not for me to say teach children about dinosaurs, but my goals might be related to supporting children to resource their own learning through engaging with people, place and technologies, things like that. So I hope that is clear. So the interest is the vehicle, not the learning itself. And also what we will do in relation to the interest is going to be determined by the children. So that's kind of why I think these two topics really tie in together. So we're asking them, what do they want to know about that area of interest? What do they already know? What do they think about it? What do they want to find out more about? What are they interested in? What ideas do they have? What hypotheses do they have about something? And how could they find out more things? So what would be their process of investigation, and how would they like to explore it? So we could also, be talking about different teaching techniques of, borrowing books through the library. It could be accessing digital technology, asking experts in person or via email. So you might organise an incursion or an excursion. You might find out who is an expert within your family or community and ask them, or you might send an email to an academic or a researcher or a scientist. So project-based learning, as I said, is exactly the right teaching method to do all of that. It affords the opportunity to incorporate what children are interested in and to go on a journey of finding out what they want to know more about together. So it's a really age-appropriate and also engaging way to foster learning. And there's so much incidental learning that will happen as you unpack this project and explore different things. There's going to be embedded STEM learning. There's going to be embedded literacy and numeracy skills. There's going to be embedded learning about, growth mindset and children having a disposition of confident learners. So how this works is that a stimulus will come in. So the reason why you're starting a project, the impetus for the project. It could be in the form of anything from, say, a large box that a family has brought in. It could be that the children have noticed that there are lots of different spiders in the garden and they're all interested in that. It could be that we draw on children's area of expertise or their funds of knowledge. So what do children know a lot about? For example, a common one is dinosaurs. I've got another example where I visited a service in a more regional area, and a few children had a real interest in a huge body of knowledge around farm equipment, specifically John Deere trucks and excavators. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I reckon their knowledge could have really challenged some of the salespeople in that company. So it could be something that's topical. It could be something that's happening in our world or our community, like National Reconciliation Week, or it could be natural events like floods or fires or other weather events. There's really no set rules around where the interest might come from. So it can be something that is, as I said, something that a child is an expert at or interested in. Or it could be something that they're interested in because maybe they're concerned. They're hearing lots of things about floods and how people will, be safe and what will be happening to them. But it does need to be relevant or reflective of place-based pedagogy. So to have old school, going back a long, long time ago, and I hope nobody's really doing this anymore, but themes or, set concepts that you're trying to teach, it's needs to be something that's sort of connected, I guess, to the children's, what's happening in their world. So, that idea that if you're basing it on that place-based pedagogy, the project or the interest is simply, a catalyst for that rich learning. And it'll already include lots of deep learning, as I said, about things like ecosystem, weather. There's also plenty of opportunities for rich early literacy and numeracy to be involved where, you might be planting a garden and you might be developing a chart to measure the growth in centimetres of how the plants are growing. So there's lots of ecological learning around what plants need to grow, but there's also that sort of mathematical thinking about tracking and progressing as the plants progress. PBEL, project-based learning, is also an opportunity to introduce concepts of fairness and democracy with very young children as we vote on decisions within the project rather than making all the decisions ourselves as adults. It also provides an opportunity for other, linked in learning experiences, as I mentioned before, but also creative arts. So you might do some, part of children's interest in the spiders might be, say, might involve, how they protect themselves from weather. So you might do a play that dramatises Incy Wincy Spider, let's just say. Or there, as I said before, there's lots of STEM opportunities there. So it might be, if it's the box, say, it might be what engineering ideas and concepts do we need to implement if we're going to, say, develop a treehouse on stilts. We'll need to investigate that. It could be involving cooking and healthy lifestyles based on whatever the project might be. I like to record that process of gathering ideas and progressing and making decisions through, first of all, the gathering of ideas through mind maps, and then also tracking and using, so children have a concept of making symbols have meaning. So I might track, what was the question we asked, that voting process, how many people voted for this, how many people voted for that, which number is bigger. So that's what I mean by the learning being built in. I also like to then record the development of the project through a project book where I include pictures and work samples, and that's made available to children. And trust me, I do not go to a lot of extravagant design and decoration for this. It's really just meant to be a workbook or a floor book or whatever you want to call it that children can look at what's happening, revisit their learning and discuss what they thought about different things. Whose image is that? Oh, that's so-and-so's, because they can see that person's name on that. And this provides the next level of the deep learning associated with project-based learning, which is that concept of revisiting learning and also seeing that sequence of learning building, seeing themselves as scientists, as meaning makers, as creative individuals, etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to leave that there because this is a professional learning tapas, and it is really meant to be a short and sharp summary of key ideas. If you're interested to learn more about some of these concepts, then I really recommend you take a look at our courses in our Early Childhood Curriculum Pedagogy Catalogue. And don't forget, podcast listeners receive a discount on every purchase. Just enter the code POD25 at the checkout. And check out our podcast notes if you'd like a link to our website. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Early Years Learning Hub podcast. And don't forget to rate our show.